My name is Pablo Achurra Gonzalez. I'm a PhD at the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. My PhD is about maritime networks, and I work at the Center for Transport Studies within the department. There were mainly two things. My undergrad was at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York, so part of my training was to work on merchant vessels deployed all over the world, and that included visiting countries like Japan or Germany or the east coast of the US, and that was quite a very interesting experience. But I felt more interested in the whole supply chain part of the maritime transport that we were doing, and that led me to go back to school. So I ended up doing a master's in supply chain engineering in Georgia Tech. And after that, I started working as a research engineer at a newly created center at Georgia Tech, opened up in Panama, for improving the capabilities of transport and logistics of the country. So that's pretty much what I was saying. Yeah. So at the vessels, it was I think it's not a usual experience in the sense that you are doing navigation and cargo operations of vessels that are huge, and you're responsible for millions of dollars worth of cargo, and you're the one making decisions about how to navigate the vessels and the safety of the operations and stuff. And that was one of the components. The work as a research engineer was also very interesting because we were essentially bridging the gap between academic research and applied techniques or methods to improve the logistics and transport industry of both public and private stakeholders in Panama. But then later the projects expanded to a regional level. We partnered up with the Inter-American Development Bank, and we were able to apply what we were doing to other countries in the Caribbean and Central America as well. The challenges were many, but I could say because we were dealing with so many stakeholders. Let's say when I was doing this work as a research engineer, we had to explain what we were trying to do to academics, to practitioners, or to operators in the ground, and so having to communicate what we were trying to do, let's say in terms of logistics modeling or analytics, to all the levels was a challenge. Also the availability of data to work with, because we were trying to improve the logistics capabilities of countries. But in order to do that, we had to measure that first, but we found that there was a lack of data to work with, so we had to build databases from the ground up and stuff. I shouldn't say stuff, things like that, yeah. When I was doing the research engineer work, I came across, part of my work required that I survey the state of the knowledge in, let's say, container routing. And part of those tasks or jobs led me to come across with the research that my current supervisors here at Imperial College were doing. And when the time came to choose a place to do my PhD, it was evident that they were pretty much at the forefront of what I wanted to do. So I got in contact with them, and we had a few interviews in which we determined whether what we were trying to do was in line. So and I guess things worked out, and now I'm here. Yeah, I think that will depend on the opportunities, but I can say that part of my PhD I was able to do a research placement at the United Nations in Switzerland, in which I was able to see how the research we were doing here in Imperial could be applied to policy making. Let's say we were evaluating the vulnerability of small island developing states in terms of their capabilities for container shipping. So it was quite interesting to see that the methodologies we were working on could have an impact in policy making. So I would like to continue doing that type of work in which I take the skills I've developed as a PhD student and translate academic research into methodologies or policies that could have an impact.